a news program from a Native perspective. Whether it's a flagpole raising or whether it's an elders conference, if it's important to the people and I make a story out of it, this is the most exciting, wonderful, fun time of my life. Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green. Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. Native news, Native information. I'm Jeannie Green. Hello to the good stations that air us across America. Hello, APTN, Canadian Network, Aboriginal People's Television Network. So nice to be broadcast across the country of Canada. Hello, Seminole Tribe. There are 5 reservations of the Seminole Tribe in Florida, and Heartbeat Alaska is aired on all of them. Thank you, Navajo Nation TV5, for bringing Heartbeat Alaska to the good people of the Navajo Nation and many other states that air Heartbeat Alaska. Nice to have you with us. Today we travel to Nome, Alaska for the Regional Youth and Elders Conference from the Bering Straits. We learn about issues that affect the lives of Alaskans all across the state and hopefully answers for a brighter future. It's a great show, and thank you once again for joining us. I'll be back with Bering Straits Youth and Elders Conference right after this.
They do architectural engineering. They design, they survey. John Larson and his crew at Larson Consulting Group know how to work in rural Alaska.
This is the best foundation system being built.
They're native owned and managed. They do design, supply housing, and they support Heartbeat Alaska. Thank you, Larson Consulting Group, for your support.
Welcome back. We traveled to Nome for the Bering Straits Youth and Elders Conference. But Nome, Alaska is known for other things. It's known historically for the Iditarod race, and Nome was at one time one of the biggest cities and boomtowns in the state. Welcome to Nome and the 2002 Bering Straits Regional Elders Youth Conference. It's a gathering of tribes, a place where past generations can meet with new generations to learn from each other. A coming together of Alaska's indigenous people from around the Norton Sound region, uniting two worlds through education for a healthy tomorrow. And it's all taking place in the quiet little city of Nome, Alaska. It's quiet now. But if these streets could talk, imagine the stories they would tell.
Nome has a truly unique history, and it started out in 1898 when the 3 lucky Swedes discovered gold at Anvil Creek. Their names were Eric Lindblom, Japhet Lindeberg, and John Bryntesen. They discovered gold at Anvil Creek, 3 miles north of present-day Nome, on September 22, 1898. Their discovery led to the largest gold rush in Alaska and the birth of Nome. That winter, that brought like 5,000 people into this area, and they camped here. They staked claims all over the land, all over the creeks, because they knew that this was a hot property for gold. in 1899, something really significant happened in July. When things were really heating up and people were really upset that these Swedes, these people that weren't originally from America, were making all this money, there started to be a lot of turmoil. Well, as luck would have it, a soldier sitting on the sand just outside of Nome ran his fingers through the sand and found gold. There was gold in the sand. So this became the poor man's paradise, where all you had to do was just dig in the sand on the beach and you'd find gold. And people did really well with that. So in 1899, that brought, I think that summer they did $4 million in gold. And in prices in 1899 compared to current day prices, that was a lot of money. So the news of the discovery of gold on the beach in 1899 went south to ports in Seattle and San Francisco. And that word spread really fast. So that's why they called this the poor man's paradise. You didn't have to really work very hard to get here. You just had to buy a $40 ticket on a steamer. You could just sail to Nome, get off beyond the beach and get your gold. Whereas in the Klondike, you had to climb the Chilkoot Pass and, you know, almost lose your life over the whole ordeal. So 20 to 40,000 people came through Nome in 1900, and that was the largest gold rush in Alaska. And this place was in a frenzy. The Nome Gold Rush brought the Eskimos from the surrounding villages into Nome. They were curious what the heck was going on here. An interesting thing is how they lived once they got here. What did they use for shelter? Because things were so ramshackle in Nome, people were just living in wall tents. Well, the Eskimos came in their skin boats and their umiaks, and they were huge. They were like 20, 30 feet long, and they'd pull them up onto the beach, turn them partially on their side, and live in them as shelters. And they were completely out of the weather because the walrus hides are waterproof, and it worked quite well. Really an ingenious way to do things. So they came from the villages of Wales, Diomede, King Island, and they eventually found that they could sell trinkets of great value to the gold miners. In this case, you see what they traditionally made: hunting implements, tools for survival. People eventually realized they could really do good business with the gold miners by making more tourist-type ivory. We have some really neat things here, like this fork and knife spoon set, all made of ivory, a hammer, a little axe, and just like even a clothespin. But these things were made for people because they were definitely marketable items. And they got into carving tusks with scenes of Nome on them. Cribbage boards were a very big deal. They're still a big deal today. There was a great demand for them. The best ivory carver of all the Eskimos in this area during the gold rush was Happy Jack. He was born in 1875 at Cape Nome, and as a little boy he grew up on Diomede, and during the gold rush his family moved to Nome, so he grew up here and he was a part of the whole experience for people. Wyatt Earp moved to Nome, the famous Wyatt Earp from Tombstone days. He moved to Nome in 1899, and he opened a saloon with his partner, Charlie Hoxie, and the saloon was called the Dexter Saloon, and it was located on Front Street near the present-day City Hall. After Wyatt Earp retired from being a lawman, he followed the rushes on the West Coast, and Nome was considered to be such a major rush that it brought a lot of really interesting people here, including people like Herbert Hoover, who at the time was a mining engineer and later became a U.S. president. Also Rex Beach was here, Jack Dempsey, who later became a famous prize fighter. Japhet Lindeberg, one of the three lucky Swedes, was responsible for bringing the very famous Leonard Seppala to Alaska. They were both from Norway. Japhet had just developed this wonderful gold mine here in Nome, Alaska, and he brought his friend Leonard up here to work. And Seppala's first jobs were at Anvil Creek as being one of the workers working the sluice boxes, which was a really tough job. He worked for that pioneer mining company for 27 years, and he used his dogs out on the ditch lines that he was in charge of for the company. Well, along came 1925, and the diphtheria had struck Nome, and they needed serum brought from Nenana to Nome. So the idea was to send the premier musher out to get it. So Seppala took his team, took off, and ran he ended up running 340 miles of the entire 640 that were there, but they ended up using 20 other mushers to relay the serum more quickly to Nome. And the serum run was the inspiration for today's Iditarod Trail sled dog race. So Seppilu was a very major part of the Nome Gold Rush. It was here all those years till he actually left in 27, but in 1925 he played a major part in the serum run, bringing the diphtheria serum to Nome. Nome today is a culturally diverse community. We have people living here actually from all over the world, but the core of the people that live here are those that were related to the people that came here from the villages of Wales, Diomede, King Island, also people whose families came here as part of the gold rush. And over time, those families have learned to live together, they've married each other, and today Nome is a wonderful place to live with a really wonderful blending of many cultures.
With just over 3,500 residents consisting of a blend of Inuit and non-Inuit, Nome has become a regional center of transportation for surrounding villages. Nome is known worldwide as the finish line for the 1,100-mile Iditarod sled dog race, which begins in Anchorage. But for the people of this region, it's much more than that. These people aren't here to dig for gold, and they aren't here to greet the mushers as they cross the finish line. These people are here to learn from each other and to try to make a difference in the present and the future. At the 2002 Bering Strait Regional Elder Youth Conference held in Nome, young and old alike have come together to exchange ideas, pass on wisdom, and celebrate life.
This person right here, this balloon right here has a lot of support. That's why it's...
I am an actor. I'm a woman, I'm Native, and I vote. And I don't leave it to others to tell me what matters. To me, every issue is a woman's issue. Every issue is a Native issue. Whatever your issue is, be heard. No boxes, no masks. I am Alaska. You are Alaska. Vote.
Hi, I'm Mark from Scan Home, and we are proud to sponsor Heartbeat Alaska.
Scan Home, serving all of Alaska's home and office furnishing needs. Thank you, Scan Home, for making Heartbeat Alaska possible.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska.
By the Nature Conservancy of Alaska, working with Alaska's rural communities to conserve and protect our natural heritage. They are also here to confront the issues that they face on a daily basis, issues that are destroying lives, issues that all seem to be tied together by one common thread: alcohol. With an alcohol rate almost 4 times the nation's rate, Alaska has got a problem. And in the rural areas of the state, it has been and continues to be a deadly one. That's why this conference is so important. At this gathering, the topics range from fetal alcohol syndrome to suicide prevention to drug and inhalant abuse.
Fetal Alcohol Syndrome.
Ursula Lion and Andrea Longpre Macht directly work with children and families that are affected by fetal alcohol syndrome and alcohol-related birth defects. At this year's conference, they held a workshop to share information and current findings about this 100% preventable birth defect.
FAS is fetal alcohol syndrome, and our understanding of that has been that there's actual physiological signs in the individual's face that they had prenatal alcohol exposure. So you're seeing the actual physiological symptoms on the facial features. So an FAE is...
It's a disability that happens when the mom's drinking, and it's a hidden disability, I should say, and you can't really see it when an infant is first born. until they start going to school, and you can see it by their action, and the teachers, the parents, caregivers, or whoever is working with the child see all these and present these, notice what is going on with the child.
And then the third one was alcohol-related birth defects, which is actually a combination of both of those, I think.
Hate is an open attack on tolerance and decency. It must be countered with acts of goodness.
Next door was the Nome Native Youth Leadership Organization that was holding a workshop on respect and tolerance, which is a huge issue in Bush, Alaska.
We're trying to achieve, let people learn more about respecting people, respect and tolerance. Like people disrespecting Native people and us disrespecting white people and
disabled people and drunks or alcoholics, I should say, and like younger people disrespecting adults and adults disrespecting us and just the whole deal.
People are disrespecting other people because they're like different races or the way they dress or like if they're gay.
It has been said it takes a village to raise a child, and that's exactly what these youth need today. Attention from their community and their elders. For these kids are living in a time of confusion, seeking an identity for themselves. They're living between two worlds, one submerged in their native culture and the other being the modern world of today.
A lot of young people don't know how to like sing for Eskimo dancing and stuff, and we need to learn how to drum and sing and teach other people to dance.
I think the elders should help the younger kids to hunt, because when they hunt and they gotta know what they gotta do, what's gonna happen, the weather, they gotta know the weather and all that other stuff for hunting.
Because the elders figured it out first. They've been through it already and we're just now learning. They know better than us.
While I was coming to Nome yesterday, I started counting the number of suicides from our community, and I counted 28 since 1970.
With issues too delicate to videotape, the suicide prevention workshop was one that hit home with a lot of people. When the workshop concluded, we sat down with the speaker for a one-on-one interview about an all-too-common occurrence in rural Alaska.
Suicide is one of our biggest problems here in our region, and we have to start paying attention to our youth, because when I see our youth are going to be our native leaders in the future.
We all need to work together on this, living together in your community. Just get together and celebrate life. Like Eskimo dancing, or we do that in Samoa.
Carol Seppilu of Nome is a survivor of a teenage suicide attempt. She has been instrumental in organizing a teen suicide prevention group in her community. Carol attempted suicide when she lived in Savunga on St. Lawrence Island. She was unsuccessful in her attempt, and as a result, Carol has to breathe through a device that she wears around her neck.
2.5 years ago, I attempted suicide while I was under the influence of alcohol, and I didn't expect it to happen. I was abused when I was a little girl, and everything started coming back to me. And I was drunk.
It's unfortunate that so many cries for help in the past have gone unheard.
You need someone to talk to, someone you trust, and someone you love. And just respect myself.
Carol will have to live with her deformity for the rest of her life, but at least she has a life to live.
The kids here that come, to me, The kids are the ones that are also real spoken out. You might have heard some of the kids speak out here. They're tired of some of the stuff that is going on. To me, our leaders and our board of directors need to start paying more attention to our youth.
Times have changed. In ages long ago, there was no alcohol, there were no drugs. People were busy and everyone had an identity. But today, needs are different. And it's time to pay attention to these young people. And it's time for the young people to start listening to the elders once again.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Bristol Environmental and Engineering Services, serving Alaska since 1994, a subsidiary of Bristol Bay Native Corporation.
Heartbeat Alaska chooses the Longhouse Hotel, the official hotel of Heartbeat Alaska. And this is where we choose to house our guests that come from all over the world to spend time with us. And this is where we hope you will choose to spend your time when you come to Anchorage. Choose the Longhouse Hotel, the official hotel of Heartbeat Alaska.
It was a conference that addressed many important issues that affect rural Alaska and our people. But it was also a chance for the people of the region to visit with each other, and for some, a chance to see friends and family again. There were arts and crafts from the region and furs for sale. This table seemed to be the most popular one. But the event that everyone turned out for was the evening dancing. There were dance groups from Wales, Diomede, Anchorage, King Island, Kotzebue, and Gambell, each adding their own flavor to the mix. 2-month-old Haley Brown, it was an exhausting 3 days of dancing and events. For the rest of those who came to the conference, it was an eye-opening experience, packed with information and education that these people will take back with them to their homes to start working towards a healthy tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Native Information. I'm Jeannie Green. It's such a pleasure being invited into your home, and I love bringing Native news to you, and I love hearing from you. Email me at jeanniegreen@ak.net, and visit our website, won't you? jeanniegreen.com. And we love hearing from you. Give us a call, 907-563-7440. Until next time, from all of us here, God bless you. We'll see you next week.